Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Wargaming. I am your host Dom Maidlow, and today I have another great guest for you today. This is Tom Lowman.
Hello.
So Tom Lowman is a very silly, chatty, competitive-minded, smiley man from the podcast and YouTube channel 6++, and you have your own special podcast called That 6++ Show.
Yeah, that's right. So that 6++ show, the film, is a podcast we've been running for a little while now. I guess we're like 25, 26 episodes in, and we do all sorts. Mostly we have a laugh chatting about events and the meta and other things, but we do strategy stuff, tactical stuff, and state of plays, talking about individual factions as well. So the most recent one I've done was actually talking about Leagues of Votan with Jake Hart and Vanguard. That was a fun conversation, fun working through them. So yeah, we do all sorts, and as you've hit the nail on the head, it's mostly about being silly and chatty and having a good time with it, right?
Yeah, which is like the most important thing, because yes, it can be a very serious like hobby and like that, but you kind of got to take a step back and be like, it's actually just a hobby. It's not life. It's not life threatening or anything like this. It's not like military service. It is
absolutely
toys.
No, exactly. And I think you yourself are a good example of this, right? You can be taking it very seriously, and you can still be smiling and having a laugh at it at the same time, right? I've seen you on your table ones, and there's always a smile. You're always having a good time with it, right? So there's no excuse. You can always, whatever level you're playing at, whatever level you're operating at, you can have a good time with it. And I think remembering that, keeping that at the heart of it is really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of competitive, because you mentioned top tables there, you are also a very good player, and I have been behind you at a couple of tournaments where you've gone undefeated with your Drakari last year and this year with some other armies.
Yes.
So you are also a very good player. So how have you found this year? From let's call it the ITC season year rather than the calendar year. How have you found this year?
This year's been an interesting year for me, because I think we talk about the 5-0s. I think my greatest success of 9th was the 5-0 at Leicester last year, which was just at the end of the year, just like we've just had
with Drakari, wasn't it?
Right, and that was the sort of thick city. I was one of the people that spotted the horrible things that we could do with Artists with Flesh in that current moment in the meta, right, and jumped right on that and had a good time with that. But since then, I think there's been a combination of things where I've been experimenting with armies that weren't at the same cutting edge that Drakari were at. So Gene Stealer Cult, anyone that knows me knows I put a lot of games in with Gene Stealer Cult. I've played a teams event with you on the Gene Stealer Cult, which obviously lots of reward for big brain energy, but it's hard. It doesn't reap the same kind of event rewards. I had a good GT podium place with the Harlequins book, but obviously Harlequins, again, crazy book, right? So I've sort of swung in and out with it, but I think this year I've spent a lot of time dabbling in stuff I am really keen to try that hasn't necessarily placed me as high, although I 4-1 for GSC at Leicester quite recently, so I was happy with that. And also keeping on with the Drakari as they sort of gently drift down, and we'll talk about it a bit later. But Drakari continuing to drift down into the gradual irrelevance. But I'm still playing those a lot and taking names at events and everything else. So I think competitively, I don't think I wouldn't say I've seen massive success, but I've continued to develop as a player a lot, continued to push myself with armies that are quite complicated. And really enjoyed myself. And what I feel like coming to, obviously we're heading towards probably the end of the edition, right? Yeah. I feel like I'm in a really nice spot now. I've got a lot of experience. I can always build and adapt to situations really well, and I really enjoy events where whatever sort of goals I set myself. There's been some ridiculous ones where I took like Night Lords to Goonhammer when they were with the 8th book. There were a few sort of mad decisions.
Madman.
Yeah, absolutely. It's horrible, like horrific experience, really hard work. But some funny ones in there as well. So I'm really excited for what the future brings. I think for now, the next few events going towards the end of 9th, I'm really keen to really push and see what I can do with the armies that I play. And then I think aim to have one eye on whatever comes next as well. So yeah, I'm happy with it. It's been a sort of I think quite a relaxed year for me competitively, with a couple of highlights. The teams events were big highlights. with yourself. We had that nice second place at the teams event. That was an excellent weekend. And so there were a few amazing moments. Got a few trophies. Got to play at Unconquerables and all these nice things. So very much enjoying it, and just sort of trying to figure out what the next push will be, what the next project will be.
Yeah, I feel you in all of that, because I feel like last year was kind of like the Jakari year. I feel
it's such a Jakari year, right?
Yeah, I feel like for you as well, it was like it was so fun to play, but also it was broken, and it kept getting nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, and I felt like it was educational a lot of the time, and I actually got burnt out with Jakari by the end of the end of the holiday, the Jakari holiday. I at the end of the season, I kind of just looked at myself. Well, not myself. Looked at my armies, and I was just like, right, I've kind of done the Jakari now. Like I feel like I've done enough, and I want to experience other things. And I started to build Harlequins, and weirdly enough, the book comes out, and I'm like, oh, they're broken. Cool. Rory, can you just 3D print me some Void Weavers, please? I had some of that. But then when they got nerfed, it actually was a lot better, because dark was around and light was around, but more so dark, and it was good to kind of bounce across to different armies. Now taking up chaos and completely different play style. And now again, myself, I'm looking at the next year being like, I wonder what army I'm going to play, because
it's quite
I don't know.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
That's the thing for this coming year, is that we've got this last 6 months or so where it's going to be a very different world. And you and I aren't necessarily sort of guard players or Rotan players. It's quite a different environment. I think at heart you and I like quite similar things. Like to get up close and personal with the armies that we play. And so it's an interesting time working out what armies are going to be able to get it done with that approach going forwards.
Yeah. So have you found this year sort of like, so last year was the holiday, it was very lovely, it was just plain sailing with the Raiders.
So good.
This year you played predominantly Genestealer Cult as like your main love and the main tester, and like when we played at the team tournament, we kind of threw you in the deep end with a lot of armies, because no one knew what they did.
Exactly. They're an interesting army, because they when they came out, it was a really nice, interesting, well-rounded book, but it also was coming out into an environment of some very powerful things. So it came out, and then it was like Custodes, Tau, Tyranids, all of those books, like which just backhanded it, right, without even looking. Like, I think Custodes, obviously, once they had their initialness, were fine, but there were a lot of things out there that made it really difficult to use. And it was interesting, because I was finding in games running it locally, hey, this does all right, decent book, I can score well, I can play well. But it felt like a lot of mental work, and it's taken me quite a long time to build up the reps and knowledge and confidence with it to be like, right, I can run this at GTs, right? So this is now it's out at GTs, and I'm really enjoying that and really glad to have got to that point. But also some of the things that just picked it up without blinking are also gone, right? In the artillery era, that was a brief, if you remember that, where it was like Tau artillery, Eldar artillery. And I would say one thing I did do this year was ruthlessly exploit Eldar artillery for a couple of events as well, and have a lot of fun with Night Spinners and Dark Reapers and all that stuff. Sometimes I do that. There's been a lot of experimentation. Now that we don't have to deal with that, I really like Genestealer Cult in the current meta. I think other than Armor of Contempt, they pose a real problem into a lot of stuff, and it's only the really, really resilient and dangerous 2-up save based AOC builds that I think are really hard for them. Anything else, I'm always like, I've got a really good game here, and it's going to have to react to what I'm doing rather than the other way around, which is nice.
Yeah,
it's funny adjusting, isn't it? Because you had the same thing with Drakari, where I think when you play something so good for so long, when that changes, there's a bit of an identity crisis moment where you're like, oh wow, I've got to sort of get the basics back again and get onto it and find something else. And and I think for me this year, I took the opportunity to just get off. Right, I played Harlequins for one GT, did very well, and I was like, maybe I'm just not going to do this for a few months. Maybe I'm just going to sort of just go back and dabble and muck around with the stuff I like. And leave the sort of raw cutting edge of the meta for to be whatever it's going to be for a little while. So I quite enjoyed that, and I think there's strength in taking time on and off the meta and the cutting edge. Because it's a very complex, ever-changing game, right? So sometimes it's nice to take a bit of a backseat, let someone else have a go.
Yeah, I totally agree. You mentioned Armor Contempt. I actually was going to bring this up later, but what I actually think it's bad for the game. I don't see why they've done it. I get it; it was to buff Space Marines, but it's made Chaos Space Marines so powerful. It's made Sisters a bit more durable than they should be. Grey Knights, like, and all that sort of stuff. Like, Thousand Sons don't need it.
No,
and I don't think it should be in the game. I think it's bad. What is your opinion?
It's an interesting one. I agree. I think we see where the motivation for it has come from. It's to try and address AP creep. It's to try and make elite armies feel tough enough. And I suppose if you're going to use it as a balancing tool like that, probably we need to use it more flexibly in conjunction with win rates, right? If it was aimed at a bunch of 45% win rate Marine armies, great, give it to those. Don't give it to a bunch of mid 50% win rate armies that evidently don't need it, right? And so with Chaos, it's an interesting one. I think I have not played into CSM without it, so it's hard to imagine what that would be like. But obviously, a lot of how CSM have functioned has been really leaning into that resilience. And it's on some levels, I wonder if it's the stacking with cover that's the fatal thing. If there's maybe a way to say you get it, but you don't get it and cover, right? So you don't have both those things at once. It's an interesting thing, I guess, because then that amounts to saying, well, Marines are basically just always in cover because they've got good armor. And so I don't know. There's ways of nudging it. It's not popular. I know it's not popular, but at the same time, we do also have to remind ourselves that until this very recent stint of Thousand Sons wins and EC wins, a lot of the Armies are still nowhere near really competing. Right? But evidently, some of the newer combos don't need it and are even more powerful with it. So it's tricky. It's tricky, and I think they never quite get the spectrum of damage and resilience right. Too many things at once to balance. So you always have this. Oh, there's a year when Marines are garbage. Oh, there's a year when no one can kill Marines. Oh, there's a year when Marines are garbage. Around we go, and I'm yet to see a lasting solution to that problem. But I think people would like change, right? And I think that's probably the next step. We'll see. Yeah, it might be one way of balancing some of the stronger Chaos builds, but then it's like some Chaos Legions don't seem to be pulling up any trees, right? It's not, I'm a big Night Lords man. They didn't quite give me what I wanted for Night Lords in this book. It wasn't quite what I was hoping for. Again, I still really enjoy playing them, but they're a crusade army for me at the moment. They're not competitive, or not my competitive choice anyway. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like the problem with Armor Contempt is there's so many armies out there which have -1 AP, and you negate all of it, and the majority of it is elf factions. So you've got splinter cannons -1. You've got shuriken cannons -1. Buff to AP -3, but it never really comes up. You have witches being AP -1.
Witches have just been functionally dead, right? Witches have just been asleep since that change, because there's so many things they just go into and do nothing.
I just don't get the thinking behind it, because it nerfs. Like with Drukhari needed help before Armor Contempt, and people want they needed help with the stuff to Armor Renown going, the Talos not getting core, all of the points increases, and then as everyone was as they were coming down the elevator, Armor Contempt brought up all of these armies which overtook them, and I don't think people realize how, like, Drukhari, when they were at their peak after their first nerf, it was simply weight of attacks at -1 AP, which used to kill stuff. And with the blade artists as well, you would be able to cut through a lot of things. But then Incubi used to not get a save on a 6, and I think that's fine. I think you should take away Armor Contempt from these Marine factions, but actually look at the rules of the army properly and go, how can I actually give this out? Because, like, when they gave Armor Contempt for Salamanders, they already had that. They had it built in. So what do they do? Give them, you can't reroll wounds. That's so good. But it's not. All of the Legion traits for all of the Space Marine armies are great. The problem is that the actual models that they have, the range, they've got so many of them, but they're all just overcosted, or they're just a Redemptor Dreadnought, which everyone has to take. And it's just silly. Like I think it should go. I think the solution is probably in 10th edition.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think so. I think until we see juiced up Marines again, a set of Marine books that have the ability to stick in the game and play the game properly and threaten the game properly with a better range of options. Yeah, it's going to exist as a sort of band-aid, and I think Drukhari are a good example. And obviously, no one needs to feel sorry for Drukhari. It's fine, guys. We get it. They did the bad thing. Well, I think we'll be forgiven by 10th. I think, but at the moment, for the rest of 9th, probably it's just paying for our sins. But I think it's upset the entire contract of tough army versus glass cannon army. Right, as someone who plays pretty much glass cannons most of the time, that's my natural preference. Armies that pay a lot for and buy into damage at the cost of literally dying instantly are now not doing that damage to a lot of things, right? That's the problem that they have. It's the problem that elves in general have at the moment. That entire game of trade and hide and punch isn't working because there's too much stuff that can basically just absorb that and then batter them because it's a bunch of very flimsy little bodies, right? Yeah, GSC again have this issue, right? They have good AP without armor content, but if they go into it, all of that stuff is just bouncing off, and then at the end of the day, it's basically a bunch of guardsmen, and then they all die. So it's like, yeah, that's been the casualty in this, but I think people are okay with that. I think we had a very elf dominant edition up until that point. Craftworlds, Harlequins, Drukhari had all enjoyed a really dominant time. And I do feel like with Nephilim in general, I'll be honest, I feel like Nephilim was a hard, how do we get elves under control kind of mission set. In terms of the secondary changes, in terms of the mission design, in terms of what got attention and what was buffed, it was all very much about putting elves back in their place, right? Yeah. And I'd say it's done that. It's succeeded in that sense. And I don't think we need to be too sad about it because we've seen other stuff shine and that's been fun. And it's not like elves haven't been doing well because, as you say, Harlequins have stayed really good throughout. It's very flexible, very adaptable. Yeah. But I think it helped to get some of that under control. And it just, sometimes it just means you get a feel bad. It was Death Guard for elves are just so scary. I know. It can be a really rough time. Like there's just some stuff out there where it's like, I just go into this and just can't hurt it. Like just can't scratch it.
Yeah. I do feel sorry for Eldar because like they had like a power 2 months.
Yeah,
just smashing. Yeah, and then they went to being one of the worst armies in the game.
Yeah.
And it was like just such a massive fall.
Yeah.
And because it was multiple nerfs. It was getting rid of Hail of Doom and Armor Contempt coming in.
Yeah.
And then indirect fire. And they're all about indirect fire. They're all about so many weapons which do it. And they have so many AP-1 weapons. It's just a shame, really. Definitely. Like and they relied on planes a lot in previous editions, and that obviously came in, and people were just like, well, they made planes unplayable. Everyone's like, like 40k has had enough of planes, but they haven't learned from the Tau planes yet. I don't know how they survived without getting nerfed. Honestly, I played 2 games today actually, and he had 2 Tau bombers in each time. Yeah. Turn 1. He rolled on the mortal wounds like the max number you can roll and just wiped the squad, and I was like,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, they are quite scary, the old Sun Sharks. Yeah, it's
cheap.
It's an interesting one, and Eldar, I think, Crawfords especially. I think Drukhari and Harlequins have both had a great run, but Crawfords as well. I think it's the fact that a lot of the core mechanics of the book just got slashed up as well, right? Like the sort of the being able to exploit battle focus, being able to exploit other things. All at the same time as points rises, secondary changes, mission changes. It was like a massive set of hits. And it's not an easy army to play at the best of times, Craftworlds, and it just doesn't feel like it's there's people who do manage to do some things, but I think for your average player, it's really, really hard work now.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the other army I dabbled in this year, was Yunari as well. I had a little run on Yunari. I had a few games with that, a couple of events with that. That's quite fun. You should try that sometime. You'd enjoy it. Like you can just, when it all comes together, it's a lot of mortal wounds and melee punch. Like it's very, very fun. And the Incarn's great. Like Incarn is a lot of fun to play.
Did you find yourself relying on the what are they? The support weapons for?
Oh
yeah.
I ran a list with the planes, the combo with the planes mortal wounds. That was funny, but there's some games where you're playing 400 points down and it's just not good. And then the D cannons, the games I ran D cannons were really, really good. Like they were really, really strong. But I only really played it basically into very, very top tier chaos players just to see if it had an answer. I never quite got it there, right? You put a huge dent in this chaos stuff and then you still get mullered. Was basically how it was happening for me. Now a couple of players have managed to sort of get further with it than that, but D cannons are remarkable in their damage output. They are very good. Very funny. Like it's extremely violent.
Yeah, like because I was playing, I paired up with Ben Jones at, I think it was LGT. It was I paired into him game 3 at LGT or something like that, and he had the max number of support weapons you could have. And turn 1, I just picked up my chosen. Just
that's exactly what they do.
Goodbye.
They just delete chosen, man.
Yeah, but
how did that game finish though for you guys?
After turn 3, because I basically tagged his support weapons, and then just killed everything.
That'll do it.
Because I basically got two. My turn 1, I got 2 charges off with warp talons into characters and support weapons. Disco Lord went in. Disco Lord in shooting killed 2 support weapons. Then charged it. Then his Harlequin troop, double unit Harlequin troop, got mullered by chosen and possessed. And kind of left with only 500 or 600 points, and he was just like, I gave it a go. I
think this is exactly what I found with it, and it's why I actually stopped running. Because my main interest in it was as a tool set. I was looking at it and going, oh, there's a lot of tools in here to deal with what's hot at the moment with Chaos, Abaddon, everything else. But then having actually played that game into people that really knew what they were doing a few times, it was like, well, you've got the tools, but you still come up short. So it's like trying to answer the question and still failing is a bit sad. Like, it's like I'm not. And if I'm not answering that question, I might as well go and stick on stuff I'm enjoying more. But all credit to Ben, he has done great with them in recent times, right? He's had a good run at a whole bunch of events, and I think there's a couple of other players that are doing well with them. So there's something there. It's interesting, and again, if points and adjustments for Eldar in general change, maybe there'll be more of a spice there. We'll see.
Well, it's the whole thing. I miss elves. I played the Crocious Bard Bully Boys and Emperor's Children for about 6 months now. I believe it's been 6 months as well, and it's chaos, and everyone playing chaos out there, I'm sorry, I'm about to hurt your feelings. Chaos is a dumb army, relies 0 player skill, and you just turn up with an army which either fights on death or ignores ballistic skill modifiers and also fights on death for CP. You stick Abaddon in it and you just go eat.
There has been a lot of that. There's been a lot of chaos bowling right down the middle, right? You see it, it's deploying here, and I know in 2 turns it's going to be here. It's an interesting one. I don't bemoan chaos having a good time, because it's like, they were in the wilderness for a long time, and actually chaos space marines typically are always a bit, they're always a little under the top performers. But I think it felt at times, I mean, Bile especially, Bile is an army I just find quite mentally difficult to play into, because it's that, look, I go in and I die. And you'll see, the characters stuck out, whatever. It's like, oh, kill the character. I'm dead anyway, because the character's going to hit me back. And it's obviously for Drukhari, it's that particular one is just a nightmare. There's no way around it, right? You go into that and you get eaten. I think Bile's the only one in CSM where I'm like, that's particularly rough. I don't think it's that there's not a skill though, because you can, I see these different things piloted differently, and Bile itself is not easy to win GTs with, right? Because there's always some matchups and some situations that are tough.
But it's more like I think armor contempt carries chaos. If I'm honest, it completely skews all maths going into them. I don't think Chaos Space Marines are broken. I actually don't.
No.
I think if they got nerfed, they would struggle a lot because their secondaries are awful. They're the worst secondaries in the whole of 40k.
Oh yeah.
But the only way they win is because they go banners, they go war ritual. And if they can't do war ritual, they'll probably do something like assassinate or something like that. And they just brute force and bully you and force their army in your face. And it's like I am worried that they're going to be a bit heavy-handed because Emperor's Children have been doing well. Chris's Bar doing really well. Chris Bar needs to go. It needs to go. I wonder how would you do this then?
How would you nerf it?
If you take away Fight and Death, like on a 4+, let's say, do you give them an extra bonus?
That's a good question. Well, I'll remind you, Don, they already get +1 strength and move, which a lot of armies would love to have. I don't think they would need it to still be relevant because I guess going for them, they still have best secondary for CSM.
Yep, best secondary.
Some amazing combos, characters that get back up when they die. There's a ton of reasons you'd still want to play Bile. And I suspect a 4+ Fight and Death is still enough to make that really, really rough. Because you just need that Disco Lord to go off. Right, that's all you need. And if anything going into it is gambling on that not happening, that's still a very scary game.
Well, I'll put it into perspective for you. So, game 1 at Hellstorm, I charged I had turn 2, so he moved up. I charged in. I killed a knight. Then in his turn, he charged 3 mini knights and a big knight in. He then killed me.
Yeah.
I then fought on death. Pop the big knight and one of the small little ones.
And that's what he does, right? That's what he does. They're amazing, those guys. Like some of the best combat characters in the game, and that's great. That's what Chaos should have. But yeah, I reckon 4+ to Fight and Death would probably be about right if that's the way they go. But then they haven't touched it. They've left it once, so maybe they'll leave it again. Who knows?
So let's go through some bullshit combos.
Yeah, I like that.
22.
yeah. This is fun because we've had. It's quite mental when you think about how many different things have come out in this year, right? So I was going to list a couple that came off the top of my head. So one is there was the Maleceptor with the 25 mortal wounds, right?
I forgot about that. Oh my god,
that was completely mental. Where it was like the casting the 2 powers, all the extra mortals, casting some strat combos to fight again, some upgrades and stuff, and that thing would just delete. And it didn't need line of sight to what it was doing mortals to either. So it just
manifest the power.
I think the Maleceptor was like 150 points when it came out in that.
Yeah, and it just stuck behind the cover.
And it wasn't like you didn't even need to just have one of them. You could have 2 of them. That one was particularly mad. The other one that sticks in my head is just what if all the Tau in my army had no line of sight guns, right? And ignored cover with just 10 bajillion AP1 shots. That was horrific. So when I was playing GC the Cops, I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I am going to die in 3 turns. It doesn't actually matter. I can choose where on the board I die, but I can't. That's all the say I get in this. I'm at a Teams event where my guys, the whole army pops up out the ground, turn 2, start shooting. It's like, get a couple of photos now because this is the end. Right? This looks great, but there's not going to be anything left after this. So then the Tau just demolished them all. What's your favourite mad combo of the year?
My favourite mad combo of the year. God, I think so. When was it? January? Genius of the Cult came out, or was that February?
I think yeah. I think it was. I think it was about then. It must have been. Yeah, it was around the same time as Custodes.
Yeah. So this is an honourable mention, but the max number of bikes you could fit on a board was hilarious. Just for like a week or 2 weeks it happened. Whenever Manny got around to it, that's when good. That's an honorable mention because I actually liked it because I love the idea of these massive bikes with all their broken weapons just streaming across the board, and I thought it looked great. It was really competitive, but it made me laugh so much because people spent so much money on them, and they capped their models at 3. It was a glorious moment.
Absolutely brutal, right?
I think the top combo was the I would say the top combo was the Void Weavers. I think
the 9 Void Weavers in like
the most broken thing that's happened to 40k for a couple of years.
I think I remember because you ran it at Hellstorm. I'd run it at a GT about 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
And I had the experience where you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And I always remember seeing your face when you'd got into like the stream room and you came out and you were just like, I don't think that's okay. I don't feel like that's right. And it wasn't. It was one of those armies that was so busted that you just sort of needed to have a shower afterwards. You were just like, I don't.
Yeah, because I played into Halo Doom. It made Halo Doom look fine.
Flattens it, right? Yeah. And it was because it was nine Void Weavers. You've got the -6-inch range, so you can't even get to it half the time.
Yeah,
right?
Can't shoot it.
And it's just
trans hit, no rerolls.
Into a meta at the time again that was really needed those hits and couldn't get it.
It was airburst meta.
And they were 90 points each, right? So you basically have an entire army in front of them as well. So it was just completely and utterly insane. I remember parking mine down. I played against a mate of mine in the event, and he had, like the whole battery of plague burst crawlers and stuff, and mine just flew out and were just in front of them, just like shooting at them. It was just like, doesn't matter. Like, we're going to shoot you, killing a plague burst crawler in turn with all the luck dice and everything else. And it doesn't matter if you shoot back because you're not going to do anything. Like, you can't hit it. I'm going to make the 4s. I'm going to reroll the 4s. Like, it was really very, very silly. That was by far the strongest, raw combination, right? Like,
I nearly beat it though.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, was that the team event when I was against Manny?
I beat a mixed one at the team event. I beat a lad who had 6 of them with my Gene Stealers. That was
that's the win. But so
Manny, that's very good.
It was. It came. I reckon I would have had him if he'd have gone first.
Okay.
I defensively deployed everything. And
at
first, I had to come forwards and But if I'd have, because it was like 86 to 69 or something like that.
Yeah. That's close game. Yeah, good close game. Yeah.
But I would have had him because I would have been able to charge when turn 1. I just sat there and just had to take it, which was horrible. But I got in his head. I challenged him to kill the Court of the Archon in one go, and he tried it. And I was like, yes, I'm in there. But I said Void Weaver's number 1 for me. Honorable mention to the Custodians because I thought it actually was fun.
I didn't mind Custodians. I think although the particular combo of strats was a bit silly, and it never felt quite as bad to play into, and you don't really mind when it like. The elite superhero lads feel elite superhero.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think if there were any of the later books threw anything particularly mental out. I don't think they really did they? Like, Bile obviously was strong. Flamers, yeah. So this cheeky double tapping Zinch mortal wounds thing, right? That's not right. That's not on, right? That's obviously not intended. We've got some people out there running that stuff and not even mentioning it as something they'd like to see change, which I thought was quite fun. A couple of shows I listened to, it's like, hey, you're going to mention that in the list of things you think they could change for it? Because, I mean, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah. just use the Psychic Power twice, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And, characters, bang, bang. Yeah.
Crazy. So that's a powerful combo.
So what would you say after Void Weavers? What was the second most powerful? Would you say it's the Maleceptor, or would you?
I think probably Tyranids in general, but I think that combination of like Maleceptor, Zone Throats, all of that. So I remember there was a local lad to me who was like, "Oh, you want to come bring your Harlequins and play the new Tyranids?" And I was like, I know exactly what you're going to do with that. You're just going to melt my Quins off the board, you naughty man. I don't want to turn up for that. I've only got about... How many wounds does a Harlequin army even have, right? If you're taking like 40 off them in the psychic phase, there's not going to be a lot left.
Because I remember we had to deliberately take the Eye of the Laughing God or something.
So had to build in some more
when we played Tyranids because they were everywhere. They we would have a chance of surviving. So I reckon, I reckon you're right. That is probably second. if I was going to say the third being the top 3 most broken thing, I think Flamers, yes, they are broken, but we have Armor and Contempt now. We can deal with it kind of.
Yeah, Flamers on their own, although it's hilarious, the output. And the community always wants. There's always the next thing, right? The next boogeyman. And Flamers, when I've played them, have been okay. Like, they're fine. If you have to play a certain way around them, you have to respect them, but they're nothing like as ludicrous as some stuff. Yes, they're definitely too cheap for what they do. That's fine. That's something that's very easily fixed. This happens all the time in Warhammer, doesn't it? So it's like it's not new. So I think probably the Quins, then throw the Nids, all of the Nids mortals and stuff. Although actually, and there's also, let's not forget the Leviathan Warrior brick that needs a mention as well, like the sort of 27 Leviathan Warrior.
That. My God, yeah, because it was the Leviathan Nids were around for ages, absolutely ages.
Yeah, that was, I think, for a lot of people that was extremely rough to play into. So that's one of the big ones, and because it's like we were saying, I guess 2021 was the year of Drakari. 22, I guess, is the year really of Harlequins and Nids, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I'd say Nid, because Nids
Nids above all else has kept on coming and kept on thriving, no matter what you do to it.
Yeah, we had the year of the Armiger as well, where there were just 10, 12 Armigers everywhere. That's some of the armies that have been around. We've had Hail of Doom as well.
Yeah, Hail of Doom was big but didn't live long, so I think that's the thing that's curtailed it. But it was definitely a real issue. All of those combos are great, and there's all the mortal wound bits and bobs you can do in Eldar are really quite ludicrous. Yeah. It's the year of 10 Chaos Terminators as well, right? Let's face it. It's been a great year if you like having 10 Chaos Terminators. It doesn't matter what flavor of Chaos you play, you take that 10 brick and roll it down the middle and see what it hits. Bowling ball.
Like I really don't like playing it, hence why with my list I play the Double Chosen.
Yeah.
I played it twice today and I was like, it's just great.
It's just nuts.
It's so good.
It's just so good. It's watching people try and deal with it. That's the one thing I like with Night Lords. They've got a turn 1 deep strike strat. So if you go first, it's just like, here are 10 Terminators. Would you like to deal with them? And everything else, and an entire army of Night Lords is just running at you from behind them as well. So it's like, you've got a lot on your plate this turn. If you don't deal with it, it's all going to pounce you. Like, it's ridiculous. It's like very, very fun.
Yeah, it's very good. To be fair, it has been a good. I feel like this half of the year, since about June time, has been quite good. Like LGT felt solid. Like, So we haven't mentioned Necrons.
Yeah.
How have we forgotten about Necrons?
So what's the combo for Necrons? The Silent King and everyone, basically. Like,
just pre-game move.
Yeah, just pre-game move offset, Silent King rerolls. Yeah, and they're such a funny one because they've won a bunch of stuff. They've done okay. It's felt like a hard time for them anyway. It's not felt like an easy one. Like it's and lots of stuff has absolutely totaled Necron.
Yeah.
But that combo is very strong, and it's a combo that you feel like might change, right? Might not survive. I feel like we're going to chat about that sort of thing a bit later on. But it's like they've definitely been in there. But that's funny because that's not a new release. That's just an old book getting such a strong shot in the arm that it just rockets back into relevance.
It's crazy how they literally went from being one of the worst armies in the game, and you would rely on being Mr. James Marsden to be good at it. And now anyone could pick up Necrons and they're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what armies have survived nerfs, do you reckon?
The best survivors of nerfs have been, say, those 3 that I named. So Tau, Harlequins, and Nids. If you consider how many times they've been hit, they've all done remarkably well to just keep coming back and keep. They're those kinds of books. Again, like Drakari was last year, where it's like, hit us and we'll go away. We'll find some other horrible thing and we'll come back, right? And that's fine. And we'll keep popping up again. And I think all 3 of those, for me, have adapted extremely well. These Tau builds like you see now with the bombers and the Riptides, it's actually basically a Craftworld's Eldar Tau, isn't it? Where it's like poke out. It's just doing Hail of Doom Eldar again. And then Harlequins, they've been sort of light touch with Harlequins every time, right? They've just, except for the Void Weavers, which got absolutely taken outside and shot. The rest of it, they've been very delicate with. So they just keep coming back because they're just the raw mechanics they've given them this time are just so good in terms of how hard to hit they are, how much spiking durability they have.
But that's the mechanics of the army. If they changed it anymore, you wouldn't be able to play them. Like you can't physically can't play Twilight.
Yeah.
Can't play Dark. You can only play Light because the others suck. They just need to leave it alone.
In terms of top placing, I think that's the thing. I think when you're dealing with an army that you tot up the wounds, you're like, I've got 90 wounds on the board. You've got to be very, very careful, right? You don't have much, and so that's why they're delicate with them. And we'll see in the future what happens for Harlequins. But I think that they're settling down into a place now. And then Nids is the same, where it's like they've just been slapped and slapped and slapped with changes, and they're still excellent. And we've finally seen the move to like Kraken and melee Nids and all this stuff, right? But I think
very scary.
It was always a book, which again, the comparison to Takari is great, where it's like if you can take any self-action in that book and go and play a game, and you'll have a good time. You can build something fun with it, right? It's the same. There's some really cool stuff. And likewise, almost every unit in that book is amazing. So it's just they've survived everything because it doesn't matter what you hit, there'll be another thing, which is really good, really, really cool.
Yeah, it is good. I do kind of think that I would like Elder to have a little buff, but
it's just
I don't want
a big buff, isn't it? No, I think maybe just nudging some of the points down would be enough. Probably, if you accept that the mechanics and the changes, I think the overall changes to the secondary styles probably were good for the game. You know, stuff like Stranglehold to the last, which don't get me wrong, love those things. Love a cheeky Stranglehold. Love getting that 15 just booping around. But I think in general the game has probably been better for not having that, and that probably means that you can nudge the points to have just a few more bodies on the board for Eldar, and that might do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's probably all that's needed, and maybe leave Swooping Hawks alone because everyone already still thinks they're amazing. So they're clearly fine. Whatever you've done with them is fine. But like the melee stuff, the Banshees, the Scorpions, all that stuff. This is the other thing we were talking about. In a world with Armor of Contempt, all these glass cannon units where it's like I've got my 100 and something point unit, and I know it will die the moment I use it. It needs to take its value of points out when it goes.
It does.
At the moment, so much of that stuff runs in, kills a Terminator or something, and then gets flattened, and you're like, so that's the issue, right? I think the trade pieces in the melee probably that's where you can go cheaper, and it'd be nice if that Stephen Box style Shining Spears list was like just killer, right? Just make that a little bit cheaper and just go for like murder aspects. That'd be super fun.
Oh, I want murder elves back because
absolutely.
It's just so much fun because people who don't play elves don't understand like how fun they are to play, because it's all like it's just a movement game, and you have to be aware of everything on the board. You have to be in control of the entire game, and they can only see what they can see that you're allowing them to see. They can only shoot what you can allow them to shoot. You have like 40-point units which are screening out just like a small bit of the board, but they're vital to keep the game alive. It's just they're just so much fun, and they reward really like methodical players. They reward very well. So
they definitely do, and they make you appreciate sort of risk and opportunity and cost of action a lot, and also they open your eyes to the possibilities on the board, because often the nice thing elves have is if you can spot an opening, chances are you can do something about it, right? Because you're elves, so you can get wherever you need to get. There'll be something you can do, and that reach means that you do see the game in a very different way. And so it's not necessarily for beginners, but once you do play, it's very hard. It's very hard to find the same joy in anything else in quite the same way.
What's been your favorite army of the year? I know you talked about Genestealer Cult, but was that your favorite army to play?
Of the books that came out that I have played, I think I probably would say Genestealer Cult is my favorite. Yeah, I really enjoy how it feels. It's very thematic. It's extremely silly because it pops out of a hole in the ground and tries to whack you with a hammer or set you on fire or throw a bit of mining equipment at you. And it has an enormous amount of flavour. I think people enjoy playing into it because you don't see it a lot, right? It's not a common book, and I think people enjoy the experience of the ambush and everything else. So I think it's been my favourite because I think I haven't really run Harlequin since they were toned down. I might enjoy it a lot more now.
I think,
but I think I would. I really enjoyed 8 Harlequins, and I ran a lot of Old Artists that like souped 8 Harlequins, and I've done lots of stuff with that. But I would think I was so burned by by that book when it first came out that I was like, I just can't look at this. I don't want to touch this right now. So I think Harlequins is one for me to come back to and try again. I actually really enjoyed Craft Worlds, but I've only ever run them in a chilled background setting. I've not really competed with them, and I liked the technicality of that book. Again, it's got that same GST thing where you're sort of spinning all these plates, and you're like, and hopefully, right. And then sometimes it does, and sometimes it's like, oh no, I'm dead. But so I did enjoy those books, and also CSM is a really cool book. I'm sorry, like it's as you say, it's a very aggro play style, but it's very cool, and it's been really fun to see it out, and I really enjoy my Night Lords when I use my Night Lords. It's not a me style. I have to kind of get my head around it. It's very much like, right, here it is. Yeah, it's coming in. But I thought the flavor of the different sub-factions and legions in the CSM book was really cool. And I'm going to shout out one book. The Chaos Demons book sucks. I hate it. It's rubbish. I'm just going to slate that down. I was a Death Guard Nurgle Demons player when I first came back in 8, so I've got my great unclean ones, my Beast of Nurgle, all that stuff, and they're all garbage in this book, and it's really frustrating, and it's lost so much flavour.
I agree with you, mate, because I actually sold my Demons army last month. I have everything. I'm talking. Keeper of Secrets, Grand Keeper, and Lord of Change, Fierce Gateway, Be'lakor, 15, 20 Flamers, a sea of bodies, like 8 Nurgle. I just have it all, but I played it. I played Tzeentch, I played Slaanesh, and I played Mix, and I was like, I don't like how it plays. Secondary is cool, where you bounce around the board, but it's only good if you're running Screamers. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this. They're trying to play like elves and knights in one army.
No, completely. I haven't minded playing against it. It's fun playing against the big monsters and Be'lakor and all this stuff. But it's just not a style I could get excited about. And I didn't feel like it's the fact that the mono gods just don't work in their own right. Like, I'd have loved a book where, again, like CSM, where it's like you could take several different directions. I'd have liked to see Tzeentch, Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh all be relevant in their own right, and then mixed as a sort of extra. And it's done the opposite of that. It's delivered a book where it's like, if you take these 4 things, you will be fine. But no promises, right? No promises. It's not like it's a phenomenal book. It's like, if you take those 4 things, you'll be all right. So the more I've read into it, and the more I've looked into it, the more I've been like, I think the Nurgle Demons, due to emotional attachment, will stay in the shelf for now, but I'll have to hope for 10th. It's been a long time since I ran Great Unclean. So
next time I see you, I'll just give you I've got, I think it's like 4 Beasts of Nurgle. You can just have them.
Oh, Dom.
There you go. Just have them. I'm not using just have them. Just have them. Merry Christmas.
I would absolutely love that. Oh man, I'll run those. You give me those, I'll get them. I'll run them at least once and let you know how it goes.
Then put it back in a box.
Put that in a box and wait for 10th. That's great, man. I'd love that. That'd be awesome. So, Christmas joy.
Exactly. So, what are your predictions for the 2023 early meta?
Okay, early meta. So, things I think we're going to see will be more and more Votann as people get that finished. I actually had a great conversation about this with Jake yesterday, but they're in an interesting spot where there's a whole bunch of things that can absolutely ruin them, but then there's also a bunch of stuff that they've really flattened. So they'll be strong, they'll be in and around, but I don't think they're going to dominate. Like, it's not going to be like a sort of carpet of Votann at the top tables. And I think the few UK TC events that we've had with them have demonstrated that. Like, Leicester demonstrated that. I don't think any of them made top 40 or 50.
Wow,
which is interesting, right?
But
that again gives you some idea that it's not going to immediately translate to dominating everything, but it will be very visible. And then Guard.
Don't want it.
I don't want it either. This is exactly what I was alluding to earlier on. I think we're going to head into. I'm not going to lie, Dom. I think we're heading into a meta that isn't the happiest hunting ground for people like you and myself necessarily, because it's gunliney, right? It's going to be guard, Kazakin,
Tau
continue to be good. I think Votan continue to be good.
I hate it.
The nerfs will have such a say in which of the other contenders. Because I think Tau are done now, right? I don't think they're going to touch Tau again. I think they're win rate wise, they're in actually a very nice spot.
Yeah, they are.
Again, they're one of those armies where, again, you will know a very, very good player on Tau is a very, very different prospect to a bad one, right? It's a very different thing. So shooty. Gunline.
I didn't want to hear it. I was hoping for a combat meta or mid-board meta.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And although I guess with guard, historically, that which is quick and can hide and can tie them up can beat guard.
Not anymore, because you tag those vehicles, their turrets can still shoot.
This is the thing. So it's like now you still get shot. They've also got a bunch of little men with las guns who just total you anyway, and they're teleporting around the board or jumping out of chimeras.
So now, I can't play elves with them on the board.
Yeah, imagine it. It's like Kazakin, just teleport, delete all your aspect warriors. Like horrific. So I think that book will just enjoy, new books rights, where it's like, I'm here, I'm unnerved, I'm cheap, I'm cheerful, I've got all the toys. And the meta's like, well, we've just been adjusted and we're all feeling a bit sort of mellow and relaxed, and we don't really have the same teeth we used to have. And the guard book are like, well, that's fine, I'll smash you in the face.
That's nice for you. Here's my Lehman Russ. Bang.
And there'll be some guard players who've been slogging away, and it'll be like, oh, good for you. And we'll see some ludicrous stuff, I'm sure, but I suspect it'll have a say. And then it's World Eaters, and so here's the curiosity: what the hell would you need to do to World Eaters to make them good enough to counter guard, right? Because they don't tend to put books out after earlier ones that don't have like some built-in, some ways of. It always feels like the books that come have like, aha, I've got these 3 tools for dealing with what's already come. Yeah. So what the hell do you give a bunch of guys in rhinos with chainswords?
It's not going to be like that.
Well, what's it going to be like? Well, yeah.
The rumor is that they have a mechanic where if you shoot him, they move.
Well, that would do it, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly the kind of nonsense I'm talking about.
I can't wait for that. So good.
Funny, right?
I'm just going to position in the middle. You shoot me. Cool. I'm just going to go obscured.
Yeah. So I mean that there you go. That would be interesting. And again, it would be cool. We've got Angron, we've got World Eaters coming in.
Angry Ron, I love him.
And then we're there, right? It's just all these bits and pieces battering into each other. I guess the other key crucial variable with the meta will be how ambitious they are with the pack. Yeah. And what I would really like to see is a very, very ambitious pack that tries to do a bunch of different things.
I think more 6 objective missions would help everyone else out.
Hugely, yeah.
Because it forces those silly shooting armies to actually play Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. I totally agree. More 6 objectives. Another possible would be 1 or 2 missions where players are putting objectives.
Bring Stranglehold back.
Stranglehold back, maybe. I don't.
I like that. No, because it forces a shooting army. Because now there's no Stranglehold. You can't just go ban a Stranglehold and sit and be in combat and cut everything to pieces. If I go, I'm taking Stranglehold, you're like, I'm tanks. I just sit at the back. I'm like, mate, you want to lose? I'll come forward.
Yeah. Well, that's the secondary game. There would be some scope. I mean, we can actually discuss this towards the end, because there's this one secondary change I want. There's only one I really want. I bet you can guess.
Talk about it now.
Just Old Herd the Prey. Give it back.
Yeah.
Jakari wouldn't be broken with that. Jakari, my big frustration with Jakari, the way they now play, is that you can't pick a secondary game that allows you to pick your moment in the same way. You almost always have to have a killy one in there. And then there are just some armies that aren't going to give you that kill, right? There are just some armies that are going to sit miles from you and flatten you when you come in.
Yeah, and it forces people to come forward, which is the best part about it.
Yeah. And so that's it. So Herd the Prey, I think, would be the one thing, because Necrons have it. It's not breaking the game for Necrons. Drakari are now well down in strength. I would definitely just give them the original style scoring of that back, or maybe there's a middle ground, because at the moment it's too anemic. It doesn't give them enough points for what it is to be worth it.
Yeah.
Drakari being able to play hide and pounce properly again would be great, and I think that's probably the simplest way to nudge them back to that without doing anything monstrous. I mean, you could give Talos Call back. Go on. What's the worst? What's the worst that could happen? Like, it's fine. Like,
I was talking about this yesterday. You need the way to fix Drakari so they're not broken and they're not rubbish. Is you just take off every single nerf they've ever had. And George even thinks that Dark Technomancer should be in the game because we got Armor Contempt now. Isn't it AP 1 Flamers?
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, keep all the points. Points is fine.
Yeah.
Just take off everything else.
That'd
And
be
it's okay because this is an army now where everything is almost like 250 points more expensive than it used to be when it was broken.
Yeah, it's got a way.
There's Armor Contempt, there's unkillable Terminators, there's unkillable Votan, there's all these tanks coming out. Our Lances wound the new tank on 4s, and with an AP4 with Armor Contempt and all that sort of stuff, the Land Fortress, you can't even reroll the wounds, like. You're winning on 4s and you give them a 5-up save.
Yeah,
They're still good. It takes like 17 Dark Lancers to kill Land Fortress.
Yeah, that's nuts, right? So yeah, I think a couple of tweaks then would be. I mean, that's the shopping list dream, because I'd love to put in the results to compete for top 10 and all that stuff with them next year. That would be a nice thing to do with the. I think the goal, because I've got the events lined up. I think I can pretty much tick off my forward GSC by like February, and then it's what do I do for that last bit of ninth, right? I've got that. That's literally like a few months, and it's like, so it might well be that just putting some results in with Drakari and seeing where I can get is what I end up deciding to do. But we will see. We will see what the choices are.
Harley Drakari Quins.
My Drakari Quins. So I ran that before new Harlequins happened. That's when I played your mate Paulie actually at Beachhead, and I had quite a lot of fun with that. And that was, you were giving up power from pain then, so that was much harder to do. I do like it, but it's just secondaries, isn't it? That's the problem. The problem is that.
Not really, because you do. You just build for behind enemy lines. You just go through.
That's
Reavers, and
that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. I mean, I enjoy it, and a very bike-centered Drakari Quins list would be really fun, like Reavers and Skyweavers and all that stuff. That would be extremely funny to do, and like put real pressure on.
Yeah.
So it's something to dabble in. So maybe I'll give that a run.
I was thinking about doing Harley Drakari Quins because it is quite fun. Because all you do is just build for secondaries where you go, I don't know, like you have to go engage or behind enemy lines. And
you can steal the Drakari playbook with the behind enemy lines, R&D or banners. And then it's always that third one. But I guess if you bring in the Harlequins, you can have a couple of Psychers, and you've got the Psychic option.
You do Warp Ritual. You could do
So you are putting. You'd need 2 Shadow Seers, I guess, to lock that down safely, probably. One if you're real good. Yeah, but also mortal wound power. It's not actually a bad list at all. So maybe we need to cook some nasty Drakari Quins lists up and see.
Yeah, because you still make it light. So then you get fusion pistols and mortal wounds, which Drakari doesn't have. Then you just build for behind enemy lines with Drakari speed.
The question I always have with this is, what Drakari stuff do you want in Harlequins?
Incubi,
right?
Incubi, Reavers, Drazar, Archon, Hamoxites.
Hamoxites are great.
Port the Archon.
Yeah, it's a nice set.
You kind of build a mortal wound list, because then you go Curse Blade, and then you do mortal wounds when on 6s when you die, but then you also go a brick of 20 Hellions, to just fly over to the mortal wounds. And you got 10 troop running, do 5 mortal wounds or 15 mortal wounds or whatever.
Yeah,
you can build a proper good mortal wound list.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely some stuff you can do with it, and it would be nice to see. And also, lists like that haven't really been out and about, so it would be fun to do just because it's a bit different as well.
I feel like I need to challenge myself to a mortal wound list. I've got,
Yeah,
I've got it in me.
Yeah, you should take a leaf out of my book and run really stupid shit. Like, it's fun. It's a good time.
So can we talk about your podcast?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell everyone what the hell goes on down there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we put out content very regularly on the podcast, which is called That 6+++ Show. And you can find us on all the places, as the YouTube and online and everything else. And we do a whole range of stuff. We like to just natter about different topics. Like we did a whole episode on how to lose at 40k the other day. We're like, here's a list of things. And we went through like every phase. It's like, what can you do to completely cock up in each of these phases? We do sort of state of play series where we talk through where different factions are at a particular moment in time. So if it's interesting, because I haven't done a Harlequins one in ages. So if you get the Harlequins back out, maybe we can have a conversation about where Harlequins are at. That saves me having to try and like slide into Mike Porter's DMs. Like, hello, come and talk to me. So those kinds of things are really fun. And we've done more recently. Again, we've like ranked all the codices in 9th edition, like on a whole range of things. We like listed them on different things, like how fun, flavorful they were. Drakari came about 3rd. We agreed Drakari were very good, right? They're down on power now, so they didn't do as well as some of the newer books. Yeah. But they still really, really punched above their weight, which was great. So yeah, we do all sorts on there, and we're always looking for new ideas, and so any feedback and advice are always very welcome. But yeah, come along. We like to have fun with it. If you like the sort of nattering that me and Dom have been doing today, we'll get Dom on at some point as well, because it's nice to have guests.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that'd be really fun. If you're giving me Beast and Nurgle, the least I can do is have you on my show, right?
Yeah.
Me and Chris and other new hosts at the moment is Davey. He's a really funny lad, and we have a good time. So yeah, come have a listen.
Good, yeah, guys, make sure you go check out his podcast and the YouTube channel and all of that. And where can they follow you on Instagram and everything like that?
Instagram. So I don't have Instagram for Warhams at the moment. I should get that. Maybe that's a New Year's thing. I'm on Twitter. On Twitter, you can find me at Lowest of Men is my title. And if I do get on Instagram, it will be the same, because that's what I use for all nerdy things. So just at Lowest of Men on Twitter is me, and I'm currently tweeting on about Crusade. That's what I'm doing at the moment, because we don't have any competing to do. Been playing some Crusade this week. It's been really fun.
Oh, nice.
So you can follow my random thoughts about the game and hobby adventures on there as well.
And what do you have for events in the new year? Where people...
I am a busy boy. I've got, because I'm a lecturer by trade, and I don't start until students come back from their nice long holidays. So I've got a bit of time in early January, and so I am going to go to Twisted Warp.
Nice, I'll be there.
I will hope to play you, Dom. It's about time. I think it's this time. But the time you and I had a game, so I'll be gunning for you. I'll be tailoring my list, making sure I've got as much anti-Dom tech as I can possibly bring. And then on the week after is Nottingham GT.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
UKTC one, and I'm on a bit of a run with the GC the Colts. Really enjoying how they play at the minute. So I expect I'll take them to Nottingham and Twisted Warp and have a run. And so just trying to get all of those events in, see where I'm landing. If I like where I'm at in the sort of faction rankings, I'm like, right, that's good. I'll come back to that later and go and do something else. That's the plan.
Oh, nice.
I've got also teams events. I'm at the teams event. We've got 6++. We've got 2 6++ teams going in the new year to the various different teams events that are on. I think I'm okay. I should be all right enough to get in the A team. I hope. That's my hope.
Oh, that's good, man. Well, yeah. So, yeah, everyone, if you want to chat to Tom at these events,
now you need it. You need.
please chat to him and chat to me at events, because we love talking Warhammer and all that sort of stuff. Going for drinks and everything. Yeah. That's the thing we love, is just being social. And yeah. So, Tom, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Absolute pleasure. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation. This hour is just gone. So
yeah, I know. We're just
very
eating up time, but I think we hit all the notes we wanted to hit, right? And that's the main thing. So yeah, GW, if you're listening, give us back Heard the Fray, or we will come for you.
yeah,
It's not a faction you want to pick up. You should know that from the lore. You don't mess with Chikari, man. Give Chikari what they want.
Yeah, we need to be great again.
Yeah, exactly.
I never got to use Dark Technomancers properly.
No, neither did I. I ran it when you like yourself. I ran them in End of 8th. Do you remember when it came out?
Yeah, yeah.
I like this. This is very naughty, and I used it a bunch in games, but I never really ran. I had one list where it was like grotesque in Raiders with Dark Techno.
I know. Oh, but no, thank you so much. I just need to quickly give a shout out to us, the sponsor for this episode, which is what was it fourth dimension? I always get it wrong, Rory, but fourth dimension printing. He's a 3D printer.
Amazing.
A good mate of mine, and he's 3D printed a lot of my stuff over the meta. He started his own company, and the animations at the start of the video, and he is doing a great job. He's got a shed in his garden, a very nice shed, and it's got about 4 or 5 printers in there.
Amazing.
So like Tom, if you ever need models printed quick, he's your man.
Yeah, well, terrain for me is the big one. I'd love to have some nice bits of terrain for different factions. That'd be awesome. I will definitely talk to him.
Yeah, so go check out Fourth Dimension Printing, and this has been Let's Talk Wargaming. Thank you again, Tom, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.